What's up, guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean and I'm your ordinary car guy. Today we're back out working on the VW Jetta project, working on the cylinder head. If you haven't watched the last video yet, go ahead and hop on that. You'll want to check that one out. And that one we find out what really was wrong with our engine, so we were really excited to find the issue and now are about to get it fixed. So we did have a broken valve spring and it broke right in half somehow. So we're glad it wasn't anything more serious. We have a new valve spring now and we're about to get on putting it in. So let's go. All right, so here we have the old spring and the new spring, and then we got the tool to compress the spring. Picked it up from Amazon. It was like 16 bucks to get it. So the spring sits right under this part right here. You screw it down, and that's the handle to screw it. You screw it down so it compresses it in here. So you have this top part sits there. This side sits underneath and on the bottom end of the valve. And you just screw it and tighten it down to compress the spring. So neat little tool, makes it easy. So we're going to use that and get going. So there we go, we got the new spring in. It was nice and easy with that tool. That tool was fantastic. Would highly recommend if you're trying to do that. So now we're just going to clean up this lip, clean up this, and then put the cams back in. But that was really nice and easy to use, and the tool worked perfectly. The hardest thing was just trying to get the keepers in on the valve stem, just because they're really small and it's a tight space. But we just used once we got it in there, we just used a little pick to stand it up against the valve stem, and they work perfectly. So now we're just going to get this cleaned up and try to get the cams back in. Now we have the head nice and clean. We got this surface clean, and then we got the cam cover clean. So we just had to take one of our picks here just to dig out this groove all the way around, and then where the spark plugs go to seal that. So we don't actually have a gasket for this in the pack we got, so we'll just be using some RTV to seal that up. But now I'm going to take, and with the air compressor and an air tool, blow this out as much of the crud as I can, and then we'll just use some WD-40 to really wash this out. We want to get all of this crud that came off of the cam cover when we took it off. We want to get all that mess out of there so it doesn't go into our lifters and mess with the cam and any of that. So that's what we're going to do now. And here we are. We got the head and the cam cover clean. We got all of that garbage out of there. So I'm happy with how it turned out. We'll still have to do a little bit of cleaning just to make sure the bearings are really clean before we put the cams in. But I just got it sitting here right now so it stays clean until we get to that point. But we won't be doing that tonight. So we'll jump back in, getting the cams in when we get back tomorrow. So the last clip you saw was a few days ago, getting the head and it's called a guide frame. Getting the guide frame clean and washed out, blown out, getting all the bits out of it and garbage. So got that done. Still in good shape. Also off camera, got the head and the piston heads cleaned up, so they're looking nice. And then we got a few other things that we need. So got some RTV to seal off under the guide frame because we don't have like an actual gasket for that. So we'll use it for that. We do have gaskets for like the valve cover, the head, the timing chain. Then let's just go take a quick peek at the block. So as you can see, it got cleaned up really nice. It's really good shape, ready for the head gasket and the head to go back on it. But right now, we are about to get started with the cams and start getting those back in. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But then, you know, after we get the cams in, then I guess we'll start putting the head back together and then get it back on and get it timed. So I'm not sure exactly how far we'll get into that in this video, but first step is we're going to put the cams back in. And there we have it. We have the guide frame back on, cams in, got it sealed. So we have a nice even little smush all the way around, nothing too major, so it's not going to get in the way of anything. And that wasn't too bad. So we got the bolts torqued down to spec. So what was funny when I was looking up the torque specs on it, when I first found the specs for this car and the engine and stuff, I wasn't really sure, you know, what I was looking at. But the first thing I found, which is one we eventually used, it said 8 Nm, and I was like, what is that? Is that like the is that the weight that we're using? But I didn't know what that was. And after further inspection, obviously this is a German car, so they use different metric, I guess it is. Nm is Newton meters. So I then had to just find online a converter to convert Newton meters to foot pounds. So we torqued each of these bolts down to 8 Newton meters or 6 foot pounds. And then I have the specs for the head bolts and other things as well. So I'll do the conversion on that. But I just thought that was interesting when I was first looking at them. I was like, what is Nm? Then finally figured out and enlightened myself. But yeah, we got it together good. So next thing I think we're going to do is put the exhaust manifold back on. Right, we're going to put the exhaust manifold back on?
Yes, sir.
All right, so put the exhaust manifold back on and then going to carry it over and put it back on the car. So we have the exhaust manifold on and tight. And then we have this strap on here, replacing what we used the chain for to begin with. So we'll hang this from our come along, which we have set up. So we've got this one moved over and straight. Got it set up, ready to go. So now we're going to try to get the head hooked onto here, and then we'll need it draped so we can hook our timing chain back up. And then I think we'll be able to set it down. And so also, let me show you this real quick. We also have the #1 cylinder on the head at top dead center. And here, once we get this set up, I'll show you better, but there's 2 holes that are in the cam for timing purposes. So there is a special tool that fits in there to hold them straight, but we just got 2 Torx bits in there with a little bit of wood, and it's pretty straight. So we're going to go with that and see what happens. So I'm gonna set you up, head to the time lapse, and we'll get this head hanging. So we got the head on. It was, we actually did pretty well with the come along hanging up there, but was able to take it down nice and slow and just put a screwdriver through this hole into the block to guide this side down as I held on this side, and it went down nice and smooth. So we got a nice flush fit. Now, since we got it on here, we're going to go ahead and torque down the head. So he's already getting these bolts that go in the timing cover in, and I'm going to throw in the head bolts. Alright, so we got timing chain on, got everything torqued down, and we have turned it over a few times so you can see our alignment holes are a little off. But it was a little pain getting the timing chain back on and timed right, just because it is so tight, and the cams really do have to be perfect for it to go back on. So we did get it. It was a struggle, as you can see in the time lapse. It took a little bit, but we did it. So good job.
Good job.
One more.
Good night.
One more. There we go.
Good night.
So happy about that. Glad it's back on. Everything went together just fine. We didn't have really any major issues with it going together, right? I mean, it was just a little.
Lining the cams up perfect was the only thing to get that timing chain on. I mean, just a eighth of a turn made a big difference on getting that chain lined up right.
But I mean, the head bolts and everything were fine. Torquing those down. And so what we did with those, we first went to 30 foot-pounds in the sequence, and then we did 90 degrees twice. So we did 30 pounds, 90 degrees in sequence, 90 degrees in sequence, and then we did these outside ones here at 7.5 foot-pounds. But it all went together smooth. So happy about that. Really happy to finally have the head back on. And it's going back together. And from here on it'll be pretty quick.
Hey, just for the folks at home, if anybody wants to do this, do you want to tell them what the torque sequence was?
Right, so
That's very important.
I found this online, and it took a little bit to get. So these numbers are upside down because the diagram that I had was turned this way. So as you can see, it's written straight, but I'll just keep it turned this way as our engine sits. So you can take a note of the sequence of them, and right here, so numbers 1 through 12 on the head bolts at 30 pounds, go through that. Then you go through 1 through 12 again, turning them 90 degrees. And on this 90-degree turn, you want to grab a torque wrench just to show. You want to do this because these are torque to yield. You want to go in a smooth turn. So you want to get set up at 90 degrees and then in one smooth turn to there. So you don't want to ratchet it as you're doing that turn. You want it one smooth, complete turn as you do it. So
Good point.
you do that, go through the sequence, do that again in sequence, and then 13 at 7.5, the number 13s, which are these ones right here and on the inside. But we got that, so now we're going to be going back together, get the timing chain cover back on, valve cover, and all these with the new gaskets, get the intake, and get the test fire. So that will be in the next video. We are going to test fire it in the next video.
Awesome.
So
I'm excited.
so that'll be part 6. So enjoy part 5, but part 6 is where the fun is. That's when we test fire it. So thanks for watching. It's been fun, exciting to get this back on. I'm ready to get this thing started. Subscribe to the video, hit a like, share it with your friends. Thanks for sticking along with us. We'll see you.